I was admitted to the hospital after undergoing surgery, my body weakened by the ordeal. It was the middle of the night, and I lay in bed, the soft glow of the moon casting eerie shadows across the room. As I drifted in and out of sleep, I began to hear faint whispers drifting in from the hallway outside. At first, I dismissed them as the product of my overactive imagination, but as they grew louder and more urgent, I couldn't help but feel a shiver of unease run down my spine. I glanced towards the door, half expecting to see a nurse or doctor passing by, but the hallway beyond was empty, bathed in darkness save for the flickering fluorescent lights overhead. I tried to ignore the whispers, to convince myself that they were nothing more than the byproduct of exhaustion and medication, but they persisted, growing louder and more insistent with each passing moment. Suddenly, I felt a chill breeze sweep through the room, sending a shiver down my spine. I sat up in bed, my heart racing, and glanced around the room, searching for the source of the cold draft. To my horror, I realized that all the windows were closed tight, and yet the icy wind continued to blow, as if something were trying to force its way into the room. I pulled the blankets up around me, seeking refuge from the chill, but the whispers only grew louder, their words indistinct but filled with urgency. It was as if they were trying to tell me something important, but I couldn't make out what. Terrified, I huddled beneath the covers, praying for morning to come and banish the shadows that lurked in the corners of the room. I was hospitalized for a severe case of pneumonia. It was a gloomy, overcast day, and the hospital seemed to exude an air of melancholy that only served to deepen my sense of unease. As I lay in bed, trying to muster the strength to fight off the illness that ravaged my body, I began to hear a strange tapping noise coming from the corner of the room. At first, I dismissed it as the sound of dripping water or creaking pipes, but as it grew louder and more persistent, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease settle over me. I glanced towards the source of the noise, my heart pounding in my chest, and froze in terror as I saw a shadowy figure standing in the corner, its form indistinct but unmistakably human. I tried to call out for help, to alert the nurses to the presence of this intruder, but my voice failed me, strangled by fear. I watched in horror as the figure moved closer, its movements jerky and unnatural, until it was standing right beside my bed, looming over me like a specter from the grave. I closed my eyes, praying for the nightmare to end, but when I opened them again, the figure was still there, its glowing red eyes fixed on me with an intensity that made my blood run cold. I lay there, paralyzed with fear, as the figure leaned in closer, its cold breath sending shivers down my spine. I wanted to scream, to flee from this unholy presence, but I was powerless to move, trapped in a nightmare from which there seemed to be no escape. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the figure vanished, leaving me alone in the darkness, shaken, but alive. I found myself confined to a hospital bed after a particularly nasty fall from my bike. The room was dimly lit, the only source of illumination being the soft glow of the monitor beside me. It was late at night, and I was drifting in and out of sleep, the pain medication doing little to ease the ache in my bones. As I lay there, trying to find a comfortable position, I began to hear a faint tapping noise. At first, I dismissed it as my imagination playing tricks on me, but as it grew louder and more insistent, I couldn't ignore it any longer. I glanced around the room, searching for the source of the sound, but everything appeared to be in order. The window was shut tight, and there was no one else in the room with me. I frowned, perplexed by the mysterious tapping, when suddenly, I noticed something strange. The sheets at the foot of my bed were moving on their own. It was as if something were crawling underneath them, inching closer and closer to where I lay. A sense of dread washed over me as I watched, paralyzed, unable to tear my eyes away from the writhing sheets. I wanted to scream, to call for help, but my voice caught in my throat, suffocated by fear. Slowly, agonizingly, the movement ceased, and the tapping noise faded into silence. But the sense of unease remained, lingering like a dark shadow in the corners of the room. I lay there, trembling, unsure of what had just transpired, but certain that it was something beyond the realm of the ordinary. Hours passed, and eventually, exhaustion overtook me, pulling me into a fitful sleep, haunted by visions of writhing sheets and unseen terrors lurking in the darkness.